I think Williams first started center filling in for Connor
Yes,
was
it
that
was.
Buffalo game.
Yes.
How much progress has he made both physically with the responsibilities of playing center and mentally at that position since that game to now?
Oh, he's made a lot of improvements. You know, I think anytime that you're able to bank more reps, and even in the phase that he moved to guard and Connor was back, you know, he was still having to take center reps. So he's been taking center reps since spring, like we were talking about back then, and he's been every week is a process, and every week he's gotten better with that process and with his approach to how to play the position. I think that you know, he's just a guy that every day takes advantage of his opportunity for that day and what it's going to get presented to him, and trying to make the most out of it. And so it's been good for him.
I was curious, have you been, like, I think you guys have used 11 different starting offensive line combinations. I was curious if you are
11?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was going to ask, you obviously weren't aware of that. Have you been a part of a team that has used that many different starting combinations in a
In
season?
the NFL or in general?
Just in general, in one season?
In college, I have one time, but I was coaching Division II football at that time at Michigan Tech. We had to go to our fourth center once, which is really panic-stricken. But
A lot of injuries or what?
at that point, yeah, I mean that's it. We had changes because of development of younger players that became better players at the time, and injuries. It was a combination of both at that time. But
I was curious. So when you first got here, you know, like, how aware are you of, like, the offensive line situation? Do you look at tape of every single player? Like, how did you first approach, you know, figuring out where to start with this group when you first got here?
so, are you asking that question pre me getting hired or post me being hired?
I guess both. Yeah.
Okay. Well, obviously the pre-tense to it all is the relationship with Mike, and just how his vision of what this offense is and how the view of the position being played, and our alignment is directly in line. So that's a huge phase because you work with that individual. I working with Mike and Frank all day, every day, right? So that relationship and that alignment is of the utmost importance. So that was a big part of it, pretense. Yes, at that point, once discussions begin, you start watching tape on the individuals. And then obviously once you're hired, now you go into a thorough evaluation of each player, strengths, weaknesses, how they work as a group, guys at different positions. I mean, you're doing the full gamut of what you feel are strengths and weaknesses of each individual by position, by who they're working with. Sometimes things like that show up in terms of combination blocks and communication. So all those things are tied into that evaluation.
Which that number 11 figure, 11 different lineups, did that number surprise you? Would you guess higher or lower? And secondly, is there anyone on your line who only worked at one position? Was it maybe just Tehran, or did everyone else?
So far this year, it's been Tehran and AJ at the two tackle spots. Otherwise, we've have been moving. We have guys moving in different positions since OTAs, and so that's kind of the thought process behind it all, and try to be somewhat calculated in the timing of movements and days and different things like that. So the scenarios can be for the individual player somewhat controlled and conducive for learning, but yet expand their whole knowledge of everything.
When you hear that 11 figure, are you like, geez, that is a huge number? Or?
I'm not attaching judgment to it, to be honest with you. I didn't know or think it was that, so, but I'm not evaluating it from good, bad, or anything else.
I'd assume Hunt, right guard, left guard. Is that the two positions, or did he play center as well during practice?
So what are you asking?
Rob Hunt. I mean, you say he's cross-trained as well. Is just a left guard or other positions on the offensive line?
Oh, yeah, he's done tackle. He did tackle last year too.
With this offensive line, you guys have overcome a lot of injuries and played relatively well in most games, but that Bills game stands out primarily because they were able to get pressure with just 4 rushers most of that game. Was that a byproduct of what you guys had going on with Terod going out, with Liam playing center for the first time? How are you confident that you guys can address that, considering Bills will probably try to do it again?
I think that we're in a much better place overall communication. I think that when you do bring up that it's a guy's first time playing center, and I was his first time starting in a game at that position, there's naturally some cadence issues to work through with having to go silent on the road, and just overall communication of everything and making the calls and being the centerpiece and the voice for the whole unit to work as one. And so I think that in that situation, based upon everything for him, he battled, and he utmost respect in how he performed, but he is in a much better place at this moment in time than then. I would say that that's one piece to it. Another piece, obviously, is when somebody does go down, that factors. And I think that was a game that, overall, just kind of we felt like we were in a position where we was best suited to throw the ball more than normal. And so anytime that you're throwing the ball probably more than you typically anticipate, you increase your variables and opportunities for them to have what would be viewed as success, right?
Do you
think that most people can do more than they realize?
Well, we can go off on a long tangent on that one, and I think that in a very simplistic way, yes, right? But I think that all becomes into the makeup of the individuals that you have, that you're referring to that statement of if you're saying just in our room, you're saying the team, or you're saying in life in generality, right? I think we all, as humans, can do more than what we realize, right? And so the question becomes, how do you maximize that? How do you get that out of people? How do you get that out of yourself? Do you need somebody to motivate you to do that? Like, right, you get what I'm saying? So I think that's a point of discussion that could go on for hours, really, or it's going on for years, because people are always trying to expand on that. How do we get more out of individuals? And I think that you coach and demand to what you see as the vision. And so constantly trying to put that in front of players, I think, increases the opportunities to maximize them as players, is how I'd say that.